Hello and welcome to the Alpha Software Demo and Q&A webcast. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Product Management here at Alpha Software, and welcome to 2025. We are kicking off the new year with a new version of Alpha Anywhere. A new version just came out on Monday, version 4.6.5.9. And today we're going to be going over a couple of the key features that have come out in this new version. But before we go any further, I just want to make sure that you could see my screen. You should be seeing a PowerPoint slide and hear my voice. If you could just let me know in the questions box or in the chat window, that would be great. Looks like someone put their hand up, so I don't know, maybe that's it. Let's take a look. So just let me know if I'm coming through. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And thank you everyone today for joining me. Today we're going to be taking a look at really one key new feature, I'd say two, action bars and query by example. These are both things that affect the list control in the UX component. There are also some new SVG icons, which are available, which we're going to be showing you off today. And we're going to be doing this all as part of a demo. So let's take a quick look here at a screenshot of that demo. Right here, I've got a list control. And in that list control, it's for, I made up wanted to come up with a sample data that was from a repair store, someplace that fixes cell phones, so Android, Apple devices, things like that. And so here's the data that I loaded up into my list. And up here, you'll notice I have got some buttons. And these buttons are part of what's called an action bar. Here I've got one for reset. I've got one for export to Excel. And I've got one for running a feature called query by example, which is also new in this version. And we'll show you how that works. And then I've added a custom one, and this allows me to drill down into details. And I'm going to show you how all of that works as well. All right, so when I was putting this together, I just wanted to show you something cool, because I know a lot of times coming up with sample data, we do tend to use the same sample data over and over again. But I found a really great way to come up with sample data is to use ChatGPT. So that's what I did yesterday, is I just went into ChatGPT and I said, hey, can you design a database table for logging repairs at an iPhone Android repair shop? And lo and behold, it came up with a very good table structure. I didn't actually have to make any changes to it. And then after it came up with that structure, I said, okay, that's good. Now, can you give this back to me as a CSV file with 300 rows of data? Which it did. And this took all of about a minute for it to put it all together. And it was a huge time saver when coming up with sample data. So that's just a little tip that I want to pass along to you if you guys need to generate sample data for the applications that you are building. That sample data I pasted into a notepad, and I just had to do a little bit of formatting to it. When you're using static data in a list, the fields are actually are separated by these pipe symbols rather than commas. So I just did a quick search and replace to fix that. And then up here at the very top, I made it easy to, I coded the fields with their field types. So in the case of repair ID, I made that a number. You can't see the other ones here, but for the dates, I made those dates and so on. And it just makes it easier when it's been imported so that Alpha will know the kind of field that it's dealing with, and it will do the right thing intelligently. So let's just go ahead and jump right into the live demo. And I'm going to just show you how everything works. So I'm going to pop over here to my PC. And here is the running example of my sample. So the first thing I want to show off are the query by example features. And up here in this action bar, I have a list that I can turn on that feature. So I've clicked search data in a list, and you'll see that I now have these fields that appear above my data. So let's say I wanted to do a search for Andrews or Andrew in here. What I can do is I can type in ... and then Andrew ... and it will find the two people with Andrew in their name. This comes with a built-in help system, so you don't have to remember what the syntax is for the ... but it's basically, it's ... greater than, less than. And if you click on this little icon here, it will show you the query by example syntax. You can leave this here. We've put this as an example, but you can also replace this screen with your own screen if you wanted to format this a little bit differently or phrase it differently or even translate it to a different language if you wanted to. I'll show you how to do that. All right, so here's the data we have in here, and let me just show you how it was put together. It's basically one list control, and then I've got a window in here, and that window is hiding a bunch of fields that'll be displayed when I tell it that I want to see details. So I'm going to click on this detail field. It's opened up a window, and it showed me my detail section. Okay, that's all pretty cool. So you've probably seen how to do things like this before in Alpha Anywhere. So what's the big deal about putting it up here in an action bar in a list control? And well, the big deal is that very frequently you're going to find, as I have, when you design applications, that you're going to want to have very similar types of controls that you use over and over again for all of your different lists. You're very frequently going to want to export what's in a list. You're very frequently going to want to search what's in a list, and you're going to want to be able to refresh the data that's into a list as well. And so rather than building that each time, you can actually create these action bars and save them and reuse them. So let's get into how they were put together. We're going to start from scratch because I think that's probably the best way to demo this. Also, as a reminder, because I haven't looked in the questions box here, but if there are any questions, hang on, let me open my GoToWebinar. If there are any questions, go ahead and type them into the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel. Okay, thanks. Let's jump back. So we're going to create a new UX. I'm going to say new web component. It's going to be a UX. It's going to be blank. And to it, we're going to add a list control. And we're going to call this list repairs. At least that's what the label will be. And I'm just going to click OK on that. And now my list has been inserted. And now we'll put in some data. So I'm going to double click on that. We're going to choose static data. And I'm going to click on the static data button here. And we're going to go into Notepad where I've got my sample data that ChatGPT made for me. I'm just going to paste that right in. So we'll go ahead and click OK on that. And now if we go over into the Fields tab, you'll see that the fields have all been imported. So we want to show in this list, not all of the fields, just some of them. I want to show the repair ID, the customer name. I think I want the device model, the color. Oh yeah, when it came in, and let's say date, let's say status, repair status. Let's do repair status. That's a good one. Okay. And while I'm here, I know that I'm not going to want, when I take a look at my list, in fact, I can preview the list right here. I'm not going to want all the columns the same size. This repair ID is too wide. So I'm going to go ahead and make that less wide. So I'm going to click on repair ID and go down to its column width. And we're using flex, which means that everything is relative to the other flex values you give it. So where we had a flex value of 1, I'm going to make a flex value of 1/2. So it'll use half as much space. The other thing I'm going to do in this list is I'm going to apply the compact theme just because I think it's nicer to read. So if you type compact, there we go. Whoops. Oh, I'm sorry. Compact theme does not apply in the list. Compact theme happens up at the UX level. So let me just go ahead and I'm just going to click OK and leave the changes here. I'm just going to save my work. We'll call this phone 3. All right. And we're going to go into the properties and we're going to type in compact, COMP, use compact theme. Save that. And let's take a look at that in working preview and see what we've got so far. Okay, very nice. So we have a working list control. All of these can be sorted we want to, but we don't yet have our action bar set up. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go back into design. We're going to go into controls. We're going to select our list. And then in list properties, there is a new option here called has action bar. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And when you click on that, you'll see there's a new option which now says action bar definition. So we're going to click on that action bar definition right here. And you'll see that I have some options. So here are the buttons in the definition that we're going to see by default. We're going to see a refresh button, an export button, and a search list button. And we're also allowing for custom buttons, but I don't have any set up right now. So it'll just be these three. So I'm going to leave these here. I'm going to leave the position where it is. And I'm just going to say OK. And now I'm just going to say OK again. And let's take a look and see what this looks like now with an action bar in it. So now there's my action bar and there are my three logos. If I click on the search data in field search button, it opens up the query by example. And that's all I had to do to set up query by example was simply turn it on in the action bar button. You don't have to use an action bar to use query by example. You can use that as a separate feature. I'll get into that in a moment. So let me go ahead and save that. We're going to go back into design. And now what I'd like to do is I would like to add a custom button that opens up a detail view so that I can see all of the fields, not just the selected fields in the list. So to do that, I'm going to be back in the list. I'm going to go into list properties and I'm going to say that I'd like to do a detail view. So I'm going to check on that. And now in detail view, I can set up my field map. It's the first option up here. And this is a feature I absolutely love about Alpha is that it builds everything for you. So I don't want to have to create individual controls here. I'm just going to say create UX controls for all of my unmapped fields. So it's just going to go ahead and create them, which is great. So I click OK on that. And it's going to ask me where it wants those fields placed. And I'm going to say I want it after my list control. And then it's going to say, would you like to put this in a container? And I would. So I'm going to say yes. And then we'll just go ahead and click OK. And then you'll see when I close this down that all of my fields have been built for me. So I can go ahead and save this and go take a look at it in working preview. And you'll see that when I select a row, oops, there we go. When I select a row, oh, I got to map these, sorry. Going back into the list, going back into detail view, and let's just make sure everything is auto mapped, which it is. Great. Save working preview. There we go. When I click on a particular repair ID, I see all of the details now are listed here. Now I don't want them listed like this. I'd like them to be in a window. So to do that, I'm going to wrap them up, all of these controls. By doing that, I'm just going to basically take this container and change its type. So right now it's not set to any subtype, but I can change that and choose a type of window, type of container I'd like, and the kind I'd like is a window. So there's the window. A window by default is not displayed when you open up the component, and it's not displayed until you issue a JavaScript command to display it. So to do that, we're going to want to add a button to our action bar that's going to open up this window. So I'm going to double click on that list. We're going to go back into list properties and we're going to go back to the action bar definition. Click it on that. And we're going to do a custom button. So let's click on custom button definitions. I'm going to click add. And this button is going to be called details. All right. Now this is going to be an image only button. So I need to choose an icon. And I'm going to choose an SVG icon. Let's just choose like a magnifying glass or something like that. Yeah, that looks good. So we'll choose that one. There's my new button. And now I need to write the JavaScript so that it knows to open the window when I click on that button. But I'm going to use action JavaScript to do that. So I'm going to click on action JavaScript. I'm going to say create and edit an action. We're going to add a new one. And it's going to be called, I don't know, open detail. All right. All right, now we need to define what that action does. So I'm going to click edit, add new action, and this is going to be a window type action. So I want to show a container window. And then it asks me which container. I only have one, so we'll choose that one. I don't need to give it a comment. I'm just going to go ahead and save it. And we'll save it again. Now that we've created the action, we can insert the action. We can insert the command to run it, which is just this right here. So we've written all of the JavaScript that we needed. So let's go ahead and see what it looks like. I'm going to click save and we're going to go into working preview. There's my magnifying glass. So let's choose Timothy Powers. We're going to click on the magnifying glass and behold, the window displays. Now I can get this to display, oops, a little, oh, I found this a little sticky sometimes. If I put it in working preview mode though, and detach it, it works a little better. Let's click on that. And there it is. What I was about to say is that you can customize this window however you like. You can change the fonts, you can change the layout, you can change all that. So this is just the default one that I came up with, which I think looks fairly nice. But of course, you've got control over that as well. All right, so let's take a look now a little bit more at query by example. And then we're going to take a look at some SVG icon stuff, and then we're going to wrap up. So let's go into properties of the, sorry, let's go into controls. We're going to choose my list. We're going to go into list properties. And now here's the thing, has query by example. Now, interestingly, even though this is shut off, our component does have it built in. And the reason is because the action bar has the ability to turn it on. Now, when you turn this on, let's say you wanted to have query by example, but you didn't want an action bar, you could just click that and it will let you define how the action, how query by example is set up. And by that, I mean, it defines what the button looks like and things like that up on the toolbar. So if we left it like that, we would be in a sort of redundant situation. I'll show you what I mean. If I clicked OK and we went into working preview, you'd see both my search button, but also another one which says QBE. And these both do the same thing. So this is clutter and you wouldn't necessarily want this. So you'd want to switch that option off. However, while the option is switched on, let's go back into properties. While it's switched on, you do have a couple of options here in the list builder, which are otherwise hidden. And specifically, if you're going to here to fields, you can choose a particular field, like let's say date received. And you could say, instead of having the user type in the date, I'd like them to say choose from a list. And so the way to do that is with choosing the control type here in QBE properties. So you just choose the drop down here, and I could say, oh, give me a date range or give me a drop down box and all that. So those are your options there as well. If you do drop down box, you can have it be a static list. You can have it be a dynamic list. So maybe you'd like it to be previous values. You can do that as well. And then that's about it. The other thing is, so you get to specify the date format that your data is specified in. You can do that here in QBE properties, so it knows how to handle that as well. Now, those options do go away once you shut off query by example, but they still apply because it's being turned on by the action bar. So I hope that makes sense. All right, excellent. So one last thing I'd like to cover, but also I'd like to get any questions. So let's take a look at the questions first. Is query by example the same thing as query by form? Are we thinking about query by form like in the desktop sense or in the other sense? So query by example is not quite the same syntax as query by form. So no, this is a new thing. How do you get the window to appear at a specific part of the window, like right by the item you clicked on in the window? Oh, that's a good question. When you launch the window, how do you do that? Let's see if that's an option. Let's go into my JavaScript actions, details, show container. Okay, there's that. Oh, let's sorry, let's go into the window itself. Okay, window properties, window position. Here's how you do it. What you do is you go into, we'll start at the beginning. You go to a window if you want it. So how do you make a window appear exactly where you want it to be, like right next to the item that you clicked on? For what you do is you select the window. In the properties page here, go down to where it says window properties, click on that, and then where it says window position, click on the smart button, and then you have the option of saying relative to another control, or absolute, center, or in view. So hopefully that answered that question. Terrific. So the last thing I'd like to leave you with is just that we got a bunch of fun new SVG icons that have come in, and I want to show you how you can load them up in your project. So if you recall, I just used an SVG icon just now when I put in the open detail button into my list control here. But let's say I wanted to use some of the new ones. I can go down here into properties for the list control, not for the list control, for the UX itself. And I'm going to type in SVG. And over here it says local SVG definitions. So I'm going to go ahead and click the smart button there. And one of this new link here is called Load Font Awesome SVG Icons. And I have to admit, these icons are pretty awesome. So go ahead and click OK on that. And we'll click Save. And now I'm going to go back into Controls, and we'll take a look at the icons that we've just loaded up. So in this case, let's go back into List Properties and into the Action Bar definition. Take a look at my custom button. And now if I wanted to choose one of the new ones, when I hit Select, you'll see these are the ones that I originally had. But as I scroll down, these are the new ones under local SVG icons. And some of them are really neat. A lot of cool arrows and just a nice flat style behind a lot of them. So lots and lots and lots of public domain icons for you to use. Some of them may not be public domain. They've got like some brand name stuff in here too. And so on. All right, terrific. So that is what I wanted to cover today. Let's see. Oh, we got one more question. Is there any way to make those query by watermark labels in the search field not look like database underscore column names? Yes, absolutely. We can do that. So the way we do that, let's close that, close that. I think the reason they appeared that way was just because that's how I set up the field labels. So if I've got, yeah, field properties was repair ID, I probably want to just make that repair ID. Let's see, what's the, does it have a, like customer name? Oh, that's weird. I think it's here and I'm just not seeing it. I mean, I could just rename. them. I don't think that would break anything. Let's give it a go. Nope, can't. You must go to the data source tab and change the name in the field query. Okay. That's a great question. Why don't you go ahead and send that one into guides, GUIDES at alphasoftware.com. I'd be happy to give you the answer. I should have the answer for us by next week. But yeah, that should be possible to do that. And that looks like it for questions. Well, hey, thanks very much. Happy 2025. Great to see all of you back here. And look forward to seeing you at our next Alpha Software demo and Q&A webcast. Until then, take care and stay well. Bye-bye.